Well, I'm not quite sure if Dora's going to really cooperate with me on this video, but she's a lovely girl, so I can't really hold it against her. All right, so what you'll see in front of you is the finished wing. And here is the original wing template. You can see it does vary in shape somewhat, but in a very minor way. The major contours are the same. It's also slightly longer, but it's the same design. It's just slightly enlarged. So this is our tail design. Now what's good about this is when it's laid flat on an object, one edge is swept pretty much forward, and or not quite, it's actually just slightly swept back but with a little arch, and then when it's aimed the other way, it's a nice sleek slick shum shum with the little arch at the back, which is really good because if you're mounting it this way, you get that little extra heel. And when you turn this into an aileron, this is a very advanced aileron design that works really, really well, that I've used over the years. And when you flip it around and you fly it this way, just like I said, it'll be slower. So that is going to be our tail, which brings us to the next section. So, et voila. This is one way it could meet the tail, because the tail is about this wide at the end, a little shorter, and it'll slot really nice and neatly into the tail. These are going to angle down or up, depending on how you have this. So again, one way is swept forward, one way is swept back. Swept back is for speed, swept forward is not. But this one isn't too crazy because it's got the notch out. So it's both swept forward and swept back. It's actually a very high performance tail, guys, if you look at this. And if you fly it this way, not only is it slightly swept forward, but right out to the tip. So the tip is actually wide and gives good lift, which is really nice. And if you turn these tips down, which is what I recommend, you'll have nice little downturn winglets, which is what I designed this for. Also, I've designed it so you can run it either way, with or without the winglets. With the winglets, it'll change the performance a little bit, so you might want to fly it this way first just to see if you like it, and then adjust your winglets and make your winglets. But this is what's coming in the next part of this. So I kind of want to keep this video fairly brief because this one's just an update, but this is the side off one of these food containers. And you can see that if I laid this over here, this is just going to be a quick 5-minute, we get a really nice shape here. And I can lay out how I want the contours of this to be. Now, what I'll say is if I want to slow the airplane down, I could make this here and make my turn down tips here. I could make them farther out, but keep them on the same angle. But if I'm cutting it out of this stock, it'll automatically make angles for me. On a lot of designs, this really has helped, and you'll see this is a blast. So what you'll see is that you could do this either way around and fly it forwards or backwards, essentially. And I'm going to be flying it that way. I've decided to do mine forward swept with the tail back swept, and this will be could be in this position. I actually might do it this way to keep the tail fairly fast and light so it doesn't provide a ton of resistance, so the plane isn't too slow. That would mean I have a very sleek and quick tail with a wing that's designed to give a little bit of resistance as it cuts through the air and lock in really nice. That's actually a really nice design. For me, I would recommend that, but for you guys, I recommend going the other way around if you're a beginner. The out-turn tips, what you do is you leave them like that, and the next thing you know, this whole run here does the same thing. It slows the air down as it travels out to the tip, and it'll actually work very well. So the real question I'm asking myself right now is whether I want this to be straight or not. So let me explain it this way. If this is facing the wind, you have a substantial rise here, and it's seen underneath as well. So what happens is if it's hitting the air like this, and this is the forward edge, it's leading air this way down these edges, which slows the aircraft down. So if I really wanted to say drag it by the tail a little bit, I could build the tail like a parachute. And that is an option for this plane. In fact, it's one of the things I'm planning on doing for my roommate's plane to help slow it down a little more than mine. Mine is actually going to be the faster of the two planes by far, but that's because I'm a 3D airshow pilot type of guy, and I've done live air shows in one. and he's an intermediate pilot, basically, drone wise. And this will be his first plane. So I'm pretty excited. I'm not sure what configuration he's going to want to go with, but I'm basically just going to build him the plane, present it to him, and let him fly it. And it's going to be like this. It's the reason I'm keeping all the templates and everything I do for all my designs. I'm still debating a name for this one, but right now the big question is, do I want this flat or not? And this is why I recommend you stop and think at every point, because there are so many things to consider. Do I want a tip that's downturned, for example, um, which would help the aircraft grab the air better? And if it's angled up just the tiniest little bit, it'll help it climb a lot because it'll trap the air under the wing and help it really lift up. That's called a lifting tail. And because I want this to be a high lift design, that has some drag, that's actually a doable thing. I'm really thinking I wouldn't mind doing my tail like this, but I got to tell you, I laid the whole thing out in template form, and I'll do it for you guys now so you can see what I saw, and I think you'll see what I see. That these three were made together. And it'll be like this, and you can see it's even going to have the perfect angles cut into it for deflection, which is how I designed it. It's going to be working really, really sweet. We've got lots of room for my aileron here. It's going to be a really nice design, but I think I'm going to go like that. So the tail sweeps forward, and this cutout is that, or you could flip it around and there's your cutout for the tail. It all works really well, but I have to catch a snake. Keith out.